აი მე მგონი ეთერში ვართ დილამშვიდობის ამერიკაში ვინც არის ყველას საღამომშვიდობისა საქართველოში დღეს ესეთი ცოტა უცნაური ეთერი გვექნება თორნიკე გაემგზავრა საქართველოში საარჩევნოდ და მე შევჭი მარტო და ყველაზე საინტერესო სტუმარი გვეყოლება დღეს საინტერესო რა თვალსაზრისით გარდა მისი პროფესიული საჭიროებისა ქართული ემიგრაციისთვის და გარდა იმისა, რომ ძალიან კარგი პროფესიონალია, კარგი ადამიანია, კარგი ადვოკატია და ჩემი მეგობარია, შეუძლია კვალიფიციური პასუხების გაცემა იმ საკითხზე, რაც ახლა აწუხებს დღეს, რაც აწუხებს ქართულ ემიგრაციას ამერიკაში. გრეგორი იპოლიტო არის ჩემი მეგობარი და პარტნიორი, ესე ვთქვათ, აი იმ საქმეში, უბრალოდ მე ვეხმარებ იმას იმ საქმეში, რასაც აქ ვაკეთებ უკანასკნელი რამდენიმე წლის მანძილზე, ანუ ქართული ემიგრაციისთვის ლეგალური დახმარების გაწევა. არის ჯურის დოქტორი, ესეც ანუ დოქტორი იურიდიულ მეცნიერებებში და არის ნიუ-იორკში. შესაბამისად, ძალიან დიდი გამოცდილება და პრაქტიკა აქვს იმ საიმიგრაციო სამართალში. ბევრი ქვეყნიდან ჩამოსულ იმიგრანტს ეხმარება, არა მარტო საქართველოდან, მაგრამ უკანასკნელი წელიწად ნახევარია და შეიძლება უკვე 2 წელი გახდება მალე, რაც ქართველების კეისებით დაკავდა და ესე ვთქვათ, მას შემდეგ რაც ჩვენ ერთმანეთი გავიცანით, ბევრი ქართველი კლიენტი ყავს იმ ფირმას, რომელშიც ის მუშაობს. და ბევრი რამდენჯერაც მე დამიწერია Facebook-ზე, რომ აი მოვიგეთ რაღაცა кейსი, უმეტესობა გრეგორისთან ერთად ნაწარმოები кейსებია, არის კიდე სხვა ადვოკატი მიხსენებათ. სხვა ადვოკატები, ვისაც თანამშრომლობ, ვისაც ვეხმარები, მაგრამ ყველაზე მეტი, ესე იგი, საქმე მაქვს გრეგთან ერთად. ძალიან პრობლემატური, ახლა გადავალ ინგლისურ ენაზე და ინგლისურად გვექნება ეს ინტერვიუ და მე დავადებ ტიტრებს ამას და თარგმას, ანუ პირდაპირ ეთერში ეს შეუძლებელია, სინქრონული თარგმანი ძალიან ბევრ დროს წაიღებს. სავარაუდოდ ცოტა ესეთი შეიძლება მოკლე იქნება ეს გადაცემა, არც მე ესე მგონია თუ რაღაცა ეს დიალოგი არ გაგვიგრძელდა, მე არ ველოდებ ყოველ შემთხვევაში 1 საათი. სავარაუდოდ ვერ დავაკავებ დიდი დატვირთული გრაფიკი აქვს ძალიან. მაგრამ ხო, რაზე მინდა რომ ილაპარაკოს და რა იქნება მთავარი თემები აქ საერთოდ იმიგრაციის ზოგად პრობლემებზე, ესე იგი გენერალიზებულად ვილაპარაკებთ. აი უკანასკნელ წლებზე, პრაქტიკაზე, როგორ მიდის ეს საქმეები, ვთქვათ, სასამართლოში უშუალოდ და რას შეიძლება ელოდნენ იმიგრანტები, რომლებსაც აქვთ აი ახლა პოლიტიკური საქმეები დაწყებული და არალეგალურად გადმოახეს მექსიკა-ამერიკის საზღვარი და ისე შემოვიდნენ და გახსნილიათ პოლიტიკური საქმეები ამერიკაში არჩევნების მერე და მთავარი თემა, რისთვისაც მოვიწვიე, რომ პროფესიონალისგან გაიგოთ, წარმოადგენს თუ არა საფრთხეს იმ ხალხისთვის, ვისაც პოლიტიკური кейსი აქვს დაწყებული, თავისი ქვეყნის არჩევნებში მონაწილეობის მიღება და რაიმე პასუხისგებლობა უნდა ელოდონ თუ არა, გაუფუჭებს თუ არა ეს საქმეს და კარგია თუ ცუდი ეს მათი кейსისთვის. ამიტომ ეხლა გადავალ ინგლისურ ენაზე და აი ამ კითხვებს დავუსვამ და მე როგორც გითხარით, ნათარგმ მოკლე ვერსიებს თითო კითხვაზე შემოგთავაზებთ და გაიგებთ უშუალოდ პროფესიონალისგან რას უნდა ელოდოთ რა შემთხვევაში. Hi Gregory, thank you for joining us. It's very nice to see you.
Yes, Nинука. It's been a long time. I only saw you in person yesterday. But you were there.
You're joking. Say that you're joking because I was talking about it like 5 minutes that we know each other since like 2 years already. So
I'm flattered to be on this show today. Thank you for having me. I hope to be able to answer any questions you might have. Generally, none of this is legal advice. Please consult an attorney if you have specific questions. But yes, as Nинука has stated, we've known each other for a long time now. She's incredibly knowledgeable and has educated me on Georgian politics and the country of Georgia in general. Without this, I could not represent the clients that I do. So
yeah, but you're becoming an expert in Georgian politics, so you know most of it. You know most of it.
Well, yeah, I know the main political parties, some of the names of the main players. I may not be able to pronounce the names correctly, but I can.
That's okay. We're used to
know
that.
some of the people.
But you
So
can
I'm
pronounce my surname. That's
Yes.
something
Or-
already.
So yes, so I'm an immigration attorney, specifically deportation defense. The firm I work for does business litigation as well, primarily. And I've been practicing in New York for quite a while. I've had cases all over the country. Since COVID, a lot of it's been virtual, so I can appear wherever need be. And I'm happy to answer any questions, discuss Georgian politics.
So
And,
can we discuss U.S.
anyway.
politics too?
Well, the more I learn, the better I am at my job. So
okay, so let's start with the major issue for let's say for the American voters. Okay, for this year. So last how many 3-4 years has been really difficult and extreme in terms of immigration. And as you know, and as we know all, there are many Georgian citizens who crossed the southern border and came into the United States through the Mexican border. Some of them were paroled in the beginning. I think it was like 2020, late 2020, 2021. After COVID, I would say so, and then 2022, 23, 24. As I know, there are over 150,000 immigrants, particularly from Georgian citizens. There are more like from ex-Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, but we're going to focus on Georgian immigrants. So, is there anything specific that you could say they need to expect from like within next months? If something's going to change in U.S. politics, if the government's going to change, if we're going to elect, like you're going to elect a new president, the policies that he's announcing, and the plans he has for the immigrants, is it going to affect Georgians too, or like only the criminals, only the bad guys? Let's say. You see, I have the guy's T-shirt on, so.
Yes,
But that's a
let's take
different matter.
To admire Nинуka's shirt. So yeah, okay. So yes. So if there is a change, if the Republicans are elected, there will be some changes. But there's a couple important things to note. Once you're in the United States, the only way you can be deported is if a judge orders you removed. We don't really use the term, deported anymore. It's called removal, but everybody knows.
Sure, it's the same thing. So you basically are kicked out of the country. So
yes. So you can, what'll happen is you get a notice to appear in court, and then you have to appear, and then there's a whole legal process, and it ends with a trial where a judge will decide whether you're removed or you can stay. When you if somebody crosses the border, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do so or break any law. Yes, and you can be, it's called expedited removal. And that's the only way you can be deported without a court order, without a judge ordering you deported. And
how can I, so just to be specific, so who can place you into the expedited removal and why? So just to explain it.
Yeah.
They know, but I want them to hear it from your
that's fine.
mouth, like from the
Yes.
professional. Yeah,
So
please.
if one enters the United States without a visa, without any status, without any claim to legal status, you can request what's called a credible fear interview. And an asylum officer will interview you and decide whether you have credible fear. And if you have credible fear, then they will place you into removal proceedings. If you don't have credible fear of returning to your own country, they can issue an order of expedited removal. And that is without a judge. That's just, ICE and the asylum officer deciding.
And ICE, which is like Department of Homeland Security, right?
Correct.
DHS.
Correct. Yes.
Which is a different institution as the immigration court, right?
Yes. Immigration court is the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
Homeland Security is, Department of Homeland Security. Under it has ICE, Customs Border Protection, and the ERO, which is the Enforcement of Removal Operations.
And it's regulated by Senate, I think, right? Like overseen by Senate. It's not really
by Congress, by
House, by the House.
They're a separate agency. And then if you're outside of the country, you deal with the Department of State through the National Visa Center. That's if you're outside.
Okay, so we the one can't deport you or remove you if you're already in Justice Department's jurisdiction.
Correct.
Without judge's order.
Yeah, correct. If you're in immigration court with the Department of State, you're there until the judge says, grants or denies your application.
Okay, so if these people have already started their applications to withhold the removal, that we call 589 application, like asylum application, yes. And their case is already in the court, and it's processed by the EOIR, which is like immigration court.
Yeah.
So they can't be, exactly. So doesn't matter who's in the presidential office, so they can't be. Is there any chance that this massive deportation, which we hear very often and which scares me sometimes, although everyone knows my political sympathies, where they lie, like where exactly they lie, but it scares me really. If it scares me, then it's gonna scare like 150,000 Georgians who don't work with attorneys and who don't exactly know what's going to happen. So let's clarify for them. So that doesn't matter. So that these people who have applied for the political asylum and have already started their legalization process, or to prove that they have the claim for they have the claim for the asylum in the United States, so they can't be removed, right? Like legally, according to the law.
Even if you commit a terrible crime, you're still in immigration court, and you can't be picked up and put on a plane immediately if you're in immigration court. The judge will have to decide. When they discuss mass deportation, what happens after an immigration trial, they don't, there's not a bailiff or ICE doesn't just grab you and put you on an airplane
from the court, and they just don't pick you up and place you somewhere, right?
You're given 30 days to appeal, and there's usually a stay of removal. And so nobody's really, picking you up or looking for these people unless you do have a criminal record. So when they talk about mass deportation, it's likely that they're talking about people who've already been ordered removed, but ICE hasn't.
In the United States, or they're criminals in their countries or the other countries. So who does these people, the Republicans, let's say, mean? Like, who exactly is going to be affected or deported or removed? The people who committed crimes in the United States, or who just have like a criminal record in their country?
So that depends. I can't speak for the Republicans.
No. Illegally, how? Who's under this statement? Like, who's considered first group that
they would?
could be removed?
So I can't answer whether they would prioritize people who committed crimes in their own countries versus in the United States. But it would. They would. When you're arrested in the United States, it depends where you are. But you hear the term sanctuary city a lot.
Yeah, which is like New York, LA, Chicago, right?
So what that generally means is that the local police will not report you to Homeland Security if they arrest you. In other cities, in other states, the local police will notify ICE that, hey, we have an arrest. This person doesn't appear to have any legal status. And then after the criminal cases is ended, they'll then send them to ICE.
Like, we've had a case.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, just recently.
Unfortunately.
In Mississippi, the person was by mistake picked up by the police, placed into the custody, and then, despite the charges were all charges being dropped, he was picked up by ICE, and he's now in deportation. Oh, not in deportation, but in detention center.
Yes.
So that can't be happening in New York, right? Because it is sanctuary.
If you commit a very serious crime, they will refer you to ICE. If you're given there's different crimes. If you're given a prison sentence and you're in prison, the second you leave prison, they put you in.
Oh, even if you're permanent resident, and even if you haven't been I don't know, like illegal for a second year, so they can pick you up. That's a different thing. And I wouldn't concern myself with, well, everyone deserves defense, etc., human rights, all of it. I agree with that, but they are not my first concern. So my concern are the people who are, as you know, and as you've seen the cases, like political asylum, like claimants for the political asylum, people who are hardworking, honest, good citizens, who were good citizens in Georgia and came to United States based on like well-based fear, past prosecution or future fear, and have started the asylum application and process to prove their case. Are they in danger or not? So that's what I need to tell them and to know. Well, hypothetically, but you never know. So anything could happen.
Yeah. So when you enter the country, let's say you pass the credible fear interview that we discussed, right? Mm-hmm. They will parole you in, even though there's different types of parole. Like we get the I-94, they'll give you the I-94, but a lot of times they don't give you the I-94. They simply parole you in as opposed to detaining you for the entire length of your court proceedings. So when you're paroled in, there's certain requirements. You have to report to your deportation officer at the ERO for a check-in, usually once a year, once every 6 months. You can't commit any crimes. You can't leave the state without permission. Sometimes, it depends on the parole request. So if you violate any of this parole, they can detain you again. And this is largely discretionary. So it's up to the deportation officer.
But can they remove you? They can they can detain you and place you into the detention facility, but can they deport you without judge's order if your case is already in the immigration court?
No, they
So
can,
it's by the law, that's impossible, right?
correct. Unless you're at the board, like we discussed with expedited removal. But once you're in
Yeah,
immigration,
sure. And unless there's something, for example, remember past weeks we had cases when the sponsor was, I don't know, not credible or has sponsored like many people, and there was some suspicion that this might be fraud or fraudulent
yeah,
relations, and they've placed in a detention people who actually had already their EADs, and they were like far almost done with their immigration case. Like they were waiting for individual hearing, and they were placed in removal. Some of them got removed. If they prove that you committed something, or you lied, you committed fraud, they can remove you and get the judge's order, or how can
no,
they? No, just
they won't.
is
They,
is that discretional?
well, it's discretionary to place you back in detention, right? If you violate the terms of your parole, they can place you back in detention. Usually it's in a different state, and the court will switch venues. So if they put
Why
you
is
in,
it in different state? Because they can't
because
deport
New
you
York
from the New
doesn't have,
York. Oh, that's
there's
the
not enough
reason. I didn't know
facilities.
that's the reason.
You
So
know,
they're placing them in New Jersey or somewhere close, or Pennsylvania or somewhere.
New York's too crowded to house, populations of, for ICE. So it's usually they're sent to other states for violating the terms of their parole, and we switch venues and continue the case from there. However, there are many difficulties with representing detained clients, and it's not the same type of case. It is, all these cases are very serious, but if your client is detained, you have to do your best to communicate. You need to get all the evidence. It adds a significant layer of difficulty in representation.
And especially if it's in a state where the judges are, let's
Less
say,
favorable.
not, and let's say less friendly towards the
Yeah,
immigrants and towards the people who are crossing illegally the southern border. So one more question about the immigration, like this details. So if let's say the person's in the United States, like person has crossed the southern border, he was released, he has started his case. He got his EAD, but his trial is, let's say, in 2030 or 29. And he was not paroled, but he has met U.S. citizen and got married. Can this person ever become like a permanent resident based on the marriage, or citizen of the United States?
yeah. So this is a great question. This happens very frequently because of the immigration court backlog. People come here and they end up living their lives. They're working, they're living, they
They
have
meet
families.
someone. They
Yes, exactly. They
yeah,
meet
yeah,
somebody.
it's like normal, right?
It's completely normal. And then, they have their immigration trial. And
Hmm.
it's, so if you enter the United States legally and you're married to a US citizen, your unlawful presence, which is being present in the United States without lawful status, is waived if you're married to a US citizen.
Hmm.
But what is not waived is your illegal entry. So if you cross the border without status,
Hmm.
without any visa, you enter the country illegally. It's called EWI, entry without inspection.
Inspection. Yeah.
There is a waiver for this, and it's based off of hardship to your U.S. citizen spouse or parents, not your children.
Oh, okay.
Can't be your children, because that would, and the political reason for that is people talk about anchor babies. I'll come to the United States and have a kid, and I'll be able to stay here and become.
Well, I know at least 10 people who became parents
So it's not
after
true.
after crossing the border. No, I know people who had babies here already.
But it's not true. You can't do, if you enter the country legally and you have a U.S. citizen child that is over 21, they can sponsor you. But if you enter the country illegally,
baby can't sponsor you. No, I understand.
No. So what you would need is called a 601A waiver, and you would have to demonstrate significant hardship to your spouse or parents, U.S. citizen spouse or parents, if you are removed from the country. And excuse me, that's incorrect. If you leave the country, you are barred from re-entering for a certain number of years.
Right.
So what this does is it cancels out the bar. It allows you to re-enter the country legally and obtain a green card, permanent residency.
So in any case, you need to leave the country, and come back. So I heard something has changed in that law. So
there's some other options. One is called parole in place, otherwise known as PIP, and that's if you have relatives in the U.S. military. It's called parole in place, where they pretend you left and re-entered legally.
But you have to have a relative in U.S. military?
Yes. Okay.
I don't know any Georgians who have, well, I know a couple, but not many who have relatives in U.S. military. So this person who's married to U.S. citizen and has illegal entry does have some chance to become a permanent resident if the entry issue is resolved, right?
Yes, but it depends.
If there's a waiver, if they leave the country and come back.
Yes, and you have to. Yes, so but it's not automatic. You have
sure.
Demonstrate.
Nothing is automatic.
Well, some things are. If your U.S. citizen child is over 21 and sponsors you, and you enter the country legally, you're good. But with this, you have to demonstrate significant hardship to your wife or parents. So cases I've had is your parents have dementia, or your wife is seriously ill, and can't live without you for the 5 or 10 years that you're barred from re-entering.
I see.
That it would create a significant amount of stress with to that U.S. citizen, hardship to that U.S.
Well, okay. There's a parents and there's a spouse.
Right.
Does the same apply to both? Do you have to prove hardship in case of the spouse? Isn't natural that spouse can't wait 5 and 10 years? Okay.
You still have to prove it.
Okay. Awesome.
So
so many things you need to prove here.
Yeah. So it's it's important. If you're perfectly healthy, you have a good paying job. They might say, okay, she or he could live without him for 5 years. They need to wait outside the country.
Oh, they might say that too. I didn't know that. Really, I've never heard anything like that. Well, there were not so many Georgians who were. I don't want to say illegal. It sounds something like. So it sounds not right. Like illegal immigrants or people illegal. Let's say people who don't have
entered illegally.
Oh yeah, entered illegally. Okay. Because undocumented is not correct too, because they do have documents.
Yeah, it's all and we know each other. Neither of us are politically correct, but we do want to get it right.
So exactly. So I don't want to insult anyone or say something that would upset someone.
But if you enter the country illegally, you're breaking the law. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, sure. But you're still not illegal generally. So
you're not just by definition. You're not just
So okay, do you see any tendency or how hard it is to prove the case, let's say, of Georgian applicants? Are there any differences? Is there anything specific which you see in a court, or is like one standard and everyone must like prove the same, or is there anything
It's the same
different
standard?
in the court? So
We're supposed to have the same standards across the country. It's the same federal law. With Georgian clients, I think that the difficulty, and I don't mean to be offensive, because Georgia has a rich cultural history.
as you know already.
It's one of the oldest civilizations, but it's a very small country, and people don't know its history and in the political issues. So I think with Georgian clients, it's especially important to educate the court about kind of the history of Georgia.
Like historical context.
Yes.
The political context, which is like not comprehensible for
Because
some of them.
For example, if you have a client from Venezuela, everybody knows what's going on in Venezuela. From Hugo Chavez, now it's Maduro. Everybody knows about the election fraud. This illegitimate president Maduro. Most immigration judges will know what's going on in Venezuela. Most immigration judges will not know what's going on in Georgia. They don't know the Georgian Dream, the UNN, Gerchi. They don't know, about the LGBTQ law that was passed recently, the foreign agent law that, from months back. They won't know that. So as you've noticed in court, what I try and do is ask the immigrant, the applicant, questions. Well, when did this happen? What happened after the USSR was dissolved? What was the party in power then? How did they lose power? And then kind of following, up to the war, and then, going forward.
So country expertise is
Yes.
country condition expertise is very important in that,
Yes,
that case.
For example, like the South Ossetia, that's a whole nother, issue that you really have to explain to the court. So it's good for, and most of, my Georgian clients, because it's political, they know the history very well and can easily explain it, because of what's happened to them. But that is kind of an added, because.
But you can't assume that court will understand.
No.
Yeah, and the role of the church, for example, or what does it mean, and why minorities are oppressed or like persecuted there.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if we were always proud of our multicultural society and tolerance, that shifted really in a bad direction and bad way. So this past 10 years, I would say, no, more than 10 years, like 10, 15, maybe 20. So one more important question for Georgians. As I told you yesterday, and I've made a video about it, but it's still there's still difference when you say it. And let's talk about the rumor JD, like Georgian Dream Party, like ruling party, is spreading in the United States and within the immigration, like Georgian community, the new immigrants. What they say basically is that you're never gonna get the status if the regime is changed in Georgia, and if Georgian Dream loses. First thing, and I'll explain the context better. And the second thing is that if Georgian citizen of Georgia who has applied for the political asylum goes to the ballot and votes in Georgian elections, they're gonna get in trouble, and they will not be able to prove in a court that they're persecuted in Georgia. So that's this insane rumor has spread it like just recently, and every client, and I have with you, with Raisa, with anyone who knows that I'm connected somehow with immigration is calling me and asking me, am I getting in trouble if I go to the election? Like, is it going to be like bad for my case? And am I going to be deported? And like insane idea and rumor generally. Please explain. And first question, I have to be like more specific. What was it like? If
It
you,
was the regime changes.
yeah, if the regime changes,
So,
like,
yeah.
so how important is past persecution, and what needs to be like said, let's say by the US Department of State or Europe or like our partners in the West, how Georgia must be present itself in the world for that to happen, like to become impossible to get asylum if you're applying from Georgia.
Okay. So let me break it down. So
Yeah, please.
the first, because there's two very different answers to both of those issues.
Sure.
The first one, whether you can, if you vote for in your own country's election, please let me do the disclaimer again. Okay, please consult an attorney. Every situation is different. This is not meant to be legal advice. You can't really give blanket legal advice on a lot of these immigration issues.
On a show, yeah.
Yes.
Or on YouTube.
On YouTube. You can ask Nинука for my contact information and give me a call. I'll be happy to speak to you. But okay, so if when you go to an immigration trial, for asylum, I-589 application, you'll be asked about your activities in the United States, whether you, especially if it's political, do you still support?
When you claim that you're a political activist and that's why you were beaten up and almost killed, and if you go back to your country, you're going to be killed or put in prison or whatever.
I would, while I'm not, so I would generally say that by voting in your country's election, even if you're not in that country, would suggest that you're still part of that political party or have that political ideology that is an immutable characteristic, and it might strengthen your case.
And you might, sorry to interrupt you, you can actually take a photo while you're voting and prove actually that you voted for the opposition or for the party.
In the United States, we have a secret ballot.
Well, it's in Georgia, you can do that. It's like no one can look into your ballot, but you can do it by your like if you wish. Like it's a free will.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. If I were to go to court and show the judge here, I voted for this. I mean, it would be kind of hollow. Anybody could do that.
Or you could like show your voter registration.
Yes, that I still, I'm still active. And I really want to be clear. I'm not encouraging anybody to change their behavior or their general.
Or to vote for someone. You're not advocating any political party or force in Georgia, of course.
If you have your case and you don't need to mess around with it. It's your case. You tell the truth and you present your evidence. You don't need to change anything or behave differently once you have your case, right? But but anyway, back to the main question is, I don't see that it would be an issue in court if you did continue to support the political party that you previously did. You could, now I don't know how the voting is done. If you have to go to the embassy.
Well, in Washington, you have to go to the embassy. Well, that's the base of this rumor. And in New York, you have to go to the general consulate of
Okay.
Georgia, but
They don't do mail-in ballots in Georgia?
what?
They don't do mail-in ballots?
No.
So why not?
I don't know.
You have to show ID.
Never. Yes, you have to show your ID. You have
no
to
mail-in
sign. You were
ballots.
there, but
What country
for
is
that,
it?
for that, yeah, people don't understand what you're saying right
Oh,
now if
okay.
they don't know the context. So,
Oh, sorry.
so
Okay.
it's okay. So,
Oh.
well, some do. No. So if you go, even if it's placed like at the stationed, the ballots are are stationed in a consulate or embassy, there's no police or there's no like army or anything that could really even
Yeah,
hypothetically
detain
arrest
you and
or
take you back to
detain you.
Georgia. Yeah.
No, there's no way to do that.
Okay.
So you just go, it's just a building. I think they're saving money and not opening up the ballots elsewhere. They could, but they're not doing that. So because they've already rented the venue for the consulate or for the embassy, it's only in Washington and in New York. There's another venue in San Francisco. So
Okay.
what about that? So it's no consulate there, or it's the consulate too. I don't know. So it is formally it is the territory of Georgia,
Yeah.
but not
So, yeah,
practically. So
you know, I haven't had anybody or heard that anyone's been denied an application because they,
because
you
they
know,
moved it.
yeah, I haven't, you know, hypothetically, they can make the argument that you felt safe enough to go to the government and vote. But, you know, I would argue back, well, that's the government. It's not the political party that was persecuting them.
Okay, and that's not technically. How can they detain someone in the council
Yeah,
in the line
there's
of
no threat. You know, you're
in a
safe
voter's
in the
line?
United
So imagine
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Georgian
they
police
don't know.
flying in to
Yeah,
United
exactly.
States.
We got an ex. You know, like it's North Korea. Um, you know, so I would, you know, generally speaking, live your life. You know, support who you want to support. You shouldn't have to change your behavior. And especially, it's more, you know, credibility and honesty are the most important things in immigration court. If the judge thinks you're up to no good or you're not being completely honest, they're not going to grant your claim. So I don't embellish. Don't you don't have to make things up. You know, you don't have to exaggerate. Just tell your story how it is. And if that included voting, you know, I think that would demonstrate that your continued support. For example, if you're the LGBTQ rights, you don't change your sexuality the moment you come to the United States.
No,
It's
you
not like
don't.
you're
You were gay there and
yeah.
become
So
straight
if you're
here.
a supporter of name your should I say the part UNM in Georgia, and you come to the United States, you're still supporting them. You know, I don't see that as an issue. Um, so
Well, quite the opposite.
yeah,
Quite the
yeah,
opposite in
yeah,
this case, especially in this
yeah,
case, when
yeah,
Georgia is so like actual right now. It's like every other week, State Department issues a statement about Georgian officials being sanctioned or like Georgian government
yeah,
affecting the democracy
yeah,
in Georgia and acting against Georgian people's interests and will, etc., etc. So I don't think that is a strong argument for the JD and for rumor spreading
yeah, great.
activists. So what about the country conditions? So if the opposition wins,
Yes. So
is
this,
it changing like right away, like tomorrow? Let's say opposition has won on October 26th.
Yes. So
And the judge is going to say, "Oh, everything's fine now," and there's no one who could
it happens. So if like I've had several cases where the government, if you say you are like, we'll use Venezuela again. If you say I can't go back to Venezuela because Maduro is going, in his government, they're corrupt and they're going to kill me. If Maduro and his whole political party disappear,
okay, one day,
and you go to court, the judge is going to say, well, your whole reasoning was based on this political party, this government. They're no longer there. So why are you, why can't you return now? So it is a problem. And it's happened, I could bring up a less, like more of a morbid topic. For example, there's cases involving like female genital mutilation. If you get it,
but it depends on context, and it
Yeah,
depends on the country and what you claim is based on.
Yes, so you could say, a really cold-blooded judge could say, well, it already happened to you. It can't happen again. It's safe to go back.
Let's say.
But there's more to the story, though.
Yeah, so go ahead.
But generally speaking, you make an argument saying that the case law is what, matter of Chen. If you've had severe persecution in the past, there's a presumption that it will happen to you again in the future. And the court, even if the government's changed, the court can discretionarily grant your application. But
even if the government has changed, but if the justice system is still corrupt, if the police officers are still there, and no one had arrested them or nothing has changed in the police, if the general, let's say another statement of US Department of State doesn't say that Georgia is completely safe now and democratic and everything has improved, you can still prove your case, right? Because let's say someone was harmed, beaten up by the police officer, and this person could be a witness for the trial, and the police officer got arrested or is under prosecution right now. Let's say it's December 2024 and they've arrested someone and the person could be a witness. Isn't his life in danger still?
Yes, but that would be for a different reason. If you originally said, well, the political party is after me, and then you change your story to no, this specific police officer.
No. What I mean is that if the SUSI, for example, State Security Services, were after you, how can you?
They're still around? Yeah, I mean, you would say they're still around. They haven't changed, but and I really want to be careful here because I don't want to give blanket advice on this issue. It's very.
I understand that too. Well, if Georgia becomes part of the European Union, there must be
that would
some changes already happened.
Well, the issue with that too is that if you're in the European Union, you're granted free travel to the rest of Europe, so you have to prove nowhere in Europe is safe for you, which is very difficult.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's what I mean. For these elections, not to go and not to vote based on the fear that something could change in a good way in your country, like it's like unforgivable if you ask me.
I would hope that nobody would be making decisions based upon these consequences. You don't want to not vote in your political party because you're scared that
that's what they advise people to do. So that's my concern, and that's why I'm asking you how it's going to look in the court, and for the judge and for the prosecutor.
Yeah, so I have like personal experience. I had a case once when I first started where it was in India, and the political party, this guy said, they're the ones after me. It's nobody else. They're the ones after me. They lost the election and disbanded the day before the trial.
Poor guy.
I'm serious. And the prosecutor just pulls out this, a couple articles saying these people aren't around anymore. What's going on here? We postponed the trial. I had to talk to my client. It was a big deal. But that judge would have been unlikely to grant the application. Said, well, you said these people were after you. Now they're not there anymore. It's safe for you to go back. These people that that were after you are gone now.
But listen, if you left your country because of the political persecution, and if it's not there anymore, so
then it's safe to go back.
Then you're safe to go back. So I would go back easily if the JD would be defeated, and my life wouldn't be in danger anymore, or my freedom, or my family's.
And it happens frequently. Like in Bangladesh, their government for the past, they were like a Marxist kind of corrupt government. The Awami League just got kicked out of office like a couple months ago. The leader is in exile. People who were threatened by them are going to have their cases will definitely be affected.
Yeah, I understand, but I still think that for Georgians, first of all, I don't see the chances that Georgian dream will be eliminated within a day or something, and that they won't have any influence in some of these institutions we're talking about. First thing is that. Second thing, what I think is that the West must say at some point that it has improved, that police is not acting like animals anymore, and that no political opponents are persecuted based on their political opinion or activities, that minorities' rights are
that's another
are defended, are like minorities' rights are not violated anymore, right?
Yes, so that's
I don't think the society will change its behavior like of radical, aggressive groups.
But that is a different claim. So if it's a minority right,
well, it's all under the 589, and we've had all of it, right?
Yeah, but if you have a strictly political claim based on a specific leader or party, and they're no longer around, then that's different than
if they're no longer around. But if they're in Parliament of Georgia for with 30%, let's say they have 30%, they can't create the government anymore, but they're still around. They're still in power. They still have immunity, like a member of parliament's immunity.
I honestly, I would think this would be more of like a case-by-case basis. I would have to look at it. I really can't predict how that would, would turn out. It really would depend on the circumstances and each case.
Well, if someone says that, like, if JD is in a power with like 55% of voters.
Yeah, I mean, if they're still up to, if
it depends how you build your case. Yeah.
Then that's the same. If they disappear, that's a totally different, story.
Well, unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. No, they're not going to disappear. There are people who voting for them, who still vote for them. Like there's according to last polls, there's 32% of Georgians who wants the JD to stay in power. So considering that, and the tools they have to rig the election and to falsify the results, they're gonna come close, like to, for I would say 40% in a good case.
Wow.
So well, yeah, that was the case in 2012. So the ruling party had 45%, and no, not 45, 42, I think, and 48 was Georgian Dream.
Wow.
And
there's election tampering.
but you need the majority to create the government and to complete the government. So you need the majority, and in some cases you need the constitutional majority, which is like 90 votes out of 150.
Okay.
So and that leaves them still not in power, but within this area of the influence. So what would you say to Georgians, to go and vote or to stay home?
So generally, I would say, okay. So America, we're all immigrants. Okay. So when my grandparents had the right to vote, it was a tremendous opportunity, and they felt it was a privilege. And I grew up with the feeling that you have to vote, everybody has to vote, your vote matters and it counts. Personally, I'm a little bit, there's a little bit of disillusion with the, our system. But, go out and vote. If you believe in democracy, if you, believe, we can, live better, you should, and you like your candidate, please vote.
Oh, so you're saying you're not going to vote in these elections? I don't believe it.
Oh, I can't say. It's a secret ballot. And it's a secret ballot. We can't say.
Yeah, but people, yesterday I've met someone who told me that it doesn't change anything, and one vote doesn't change anything, and my vote doesn't do anything, and that's not right. Your vote could be the one that makes a difference.
Yes, your vote can make a difference.
So I think we all must go and vote, and if we want to stay in the United States, then we need to prove past persecution, past persecution, well-based past persecution, as we heard yesterday.
Going back, the judge can grant your application based on past persecution alone, if it's significant. Even if country conditions have changed, you can have. It's not, and I don't. Some judges will,
Well, you can prove everything, and judge might say, as I've seen in Georgia, judge has seen the videotape where the person was beaten up by the police, and judge's reaction was, "I don't believe Georgian police could do that. I don't believe Georgian police would behave like that." He was looking at the videotape. And he said, "I don't know what this is." So I've had this kind of cases too. So anything could happen, but not to go and not to vote and not to help your country in this situation where we actually have to choose to go back to USSR and like in deep Russian, I'm not gonna say the word. Excrements, let's say, and to change and shift your life like completely and to go towards like Western lifestyle and Western society. And I told you it's not the same for Georgians. When they choose Europe, it doesn't mean they're like for woke politics or something.
The Georgians aren't a woke people. I don't think.
No, they're pretty conservative and traditional. Well, most of them are.
Yes.
But they all want a good future for their children. They want better healthcare. They want better life. They want to live like a normal life and not to
The
think
American
about
dream.
surviving every day. So they need to vote. They need to change something.
So
Yeah. So I'm like pushing you towards saying that they have to vote.
yes,
Okay. So we have our hour is up.
This isn't legal
actually.
advice. But generally, just vote. Get out there and vote.
Yeah, so thank you very much for being with us today. I hope so. We have every it was initially we're thinking to do like every last week of the month to have at least one lawyer and legal advisor on air. So we might see you again.
Hopefully, yeah. You have a bunch of attorneys, Nинука. You know
Yeah, I do, but like your
Nинука has more
conversation with you was really interesting and really important for
like I said,
for the immigrants.
Flattered to be here. I love my Georgian clients. Nинука is brilliant. She's explains. You don't see the other side of the story is her just teaching me history, politics,
explaining every context there is.
Explaining everything. But yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm really flattered now. Thank you very much. Yeah, so let's hope we'll see you sometime soon.
I'll be here,
and I'll wrap up now my online streaming. დიდი მადლობა ყველას, ვინც გვისმენდა, ვინც გაუძლო ამ ინგლისურ დიალოგს და დიალოგს ინგლისურ ენაზე. ანუ ამ გადაცემას შორტების სახით აუცილებლად შემოგთავაზებ და ძირითად მესიჯებს, რაც მოვისმინეთ პროფესიონალისგან და ადვოკატისგან, აუცილებლად ნათარგმნს და სუბტიტრებით შემოგთავაზებთ. მე და თორნიკე დაგიბრუნდებით იმედია შემდეგ ხუთშაბათს ემიგრაციის პრობლემებით და ემიგრანტებისთან დანახული, ემიგრანტების თვალით დანახული საქართველოში მიმდინარე მოვლენების შეფასებით, რა წინადადება ჩავახვია, არ ვიცი, მოკლედ დროებით შემდეგ ხუთშაბათამდე დიდი მადლობა. So you can just leave the studio and I'll do the same.
Okay.
Right, დროებით.